Welcome to another episode of
The
Epic
Family Road Trip. Welcome to another episode of
The
Epic
Family. Sorry. Welcome to another episode of
The
Epic Family
Road
Trip.
Welcome to another episode of
The Epic Family Road Trip.
In last week's episode, we left off in Petrified Forest National Park. After that, we headed up to Monument Valley, which is in a place called Goulding, Utah, right north of the Utah-Arizona border. This is a gorgeous place with all kinds of epic scenery. But before we get into that adventure, we want to take a few minutes to thank all of our epic family members who left comments, suggestions, tips and tricks on how to be a little more safe and careful with bikes so that we don't lose them. If we are fortunate enough to replace them, we're going to be sure not to have them stolen from us again. Let's take a minute and go through some of the tips and tricks that you guys left on our comments. And for everyone watching, hopefully these ideas will help you secure your bike so that what happened to us last week doesn't happen to you. Let's take a look at some of those pointers that we recorded from YouTube, Facebook, and Instagram. So Scott in Minnesota, you told us about the half-inch kryptonite, New York, forget about it, chain lock. Now we had looked at those, since, and they're nice thick half-inch chains. So we think that's the solution we're going to go with. Rather than having the one cable which can be easily snipped and then all the bikes stolen, we're going to get one of those chains for each bike, and that way I think it'll slow down a thief. Now the police, when we talked to the police, they said there's almost nothing you can do to prevent it entirely. If a thief wants to get your stuff, they're going to get it. He's seen people use blow torches, grinders, cable cutters, anything, every tool you can imagine if they really want to get your bikes. But I think you're absolutely right, Scott, and many other Epic family members who left the message saying the more you can slow them down, the more inconvenient you can make for them, more likely they're just going to give up and walk away, leaving the bikes behind. So that was a very good pointer. Gene Z, you said, when I travel with mine, I take it into the hotel room. Better safe than sorry. Good pointer. I wish we had done that. I'm sure they would let us bring our bikes into our hotel room. Or we could have even just left it with the concierge inside. I wish we had thought about that. We'd still have our 5 bikes with us. So thank you for that tip. Vagabond Expedition. You said use a separate cable for each bike as well as having them interlocked, which is an excellent idea. That talks about the same thing about slowing, making it less convenient for the thief, and maybe they'll just give up and walk away. Another idea you had was to back them up against the motorhome or against a fence or something, which is another great idea. All that would do is make it harder for the thief to get at it. Ian Gilbert, you said a tip for when you get bikes next is to take the wheels off and then to store the bikes in the RV. Another great idea. Thank you for that, Ian. Justin Green and Richard Hernandez both gave us some really good ideas on how to now search for our missing bikes by putting in these advanced and automated searches within Craigslist and within Google. So we are doing that, eBay, Craigslist, iSearchFrom.com, and a bunch of other sites. So thank you, Justin Green, thank you, Richard Hernandez, and everybody else. This is just a sampling of all the excellent ideas we got. So we hope that these ideas will help you if you're traveling around with bikes on a bike rack and you find yourself in a situation like we did where there was no secure parking, no underground, no indoor parking, no valet parking, because that's usually the option we've taken in the past. We were recently in Las Vegas, which again, had we parked in an unsecured area, I'm sure our bikes would have at least someone would have attempted to steal our bikes, but we were able to valet park under 24-hour security. So if you find yourself in a situation where you can't, some of these tips are very, very helpful. Thank you so much. If you come up with any other ideas to the entire Epic family out there, we really appreciate hearing from you, and we thank you for every tip you've given us so far. So in this week's adventure, we drove from the Petrified Forest National Park in Arizona up north to the Utah border to a place called Goulding, Utah. It's just over the border. It's also known as the Monument Valley. So the RV park that we stayed at was called Goulding's RV Park, and I would recommend you stay there. There are some other parks that are mostly only open in the summer. I don't think they're open this time of year, but Goulding's is open year-round, and it's a really special place, just the way it's situated between the red rocks, right in a beautiful canyon. And when you look down the canyon, you can see the iconic Monument Valley just ahead of you in the view. It's an absolutely beautiful place to stay. Not only that, but there's hiking trails just right from the RV park, so you get up in the morning and you can do your exercise walking amongst the arches and boulders of the southern Utah area. It's just beautiful, and I highly recommend you get in there. To give you a bit of background on the Goulding RV Park, it's actually an entire complex. Back in the 20s, the Goulding family moved there, and they began trading with the local Navajo Indians. In the 30s, when the big depression hit, the whole area was just hit really hard financially, so the Gouldings thought, maybe we can get another source of income into the village. So they went to Hollywood and they talked to some movie producers, and they were able to talk John Ford into coming into their area, setting up a studio and filming first Stagecoach, which became a very famous Western movie, and then all kinds of Western movies have been filmed in that area since. Over the years, the Gouldings built an entire complex there, so you don't just have an RV park, there's also a store. Just down the road is a grocery store with a full stock of groceries. There's called Goulding's Grocery, believe it or not. Across the road is Goulding's gas station, so you got diesel and gas and all kinds of fuel there. There's a car and RV wash there. They have an inn, which you can stay at if you prefer, with an indoor heated pool, which RVers are allowed to use as well. They have also a very interesting museum, which we're going to take you through in just a minute. So the museum is in the original homestead of Harry and Leon, nicknamed Mike, Goulding. They moved there in the early 20s, and they had the house built by 1928. And it stands just as it was. In fact, when you go upstairs, you get to walk through the living room and the bedroom where they lived just as it was. It's hardly changed at all. Downstairs you get to walk through rooms that have all kinds of artifacts from that era, as well as a room dedicated just to the rich history of movie making there in Monument Valley. And iconic films like Stagecoach and The Searchers, which is one of our favorite John Wayne movies, were filmed there. And even more modern day movies like Back to the Future 3 were filmed right there in that exact same spot. So you're going to really enjoy being there, recognizing that famous scenery of Monument Valley. Next, we jumped in our Jeep and went for an amazing drive off-road right through the middle of Monument Valley. Now, this is a park run by the Navajo Nation. You can't use your National Park Pass for this, but it only costs $25 for the 5 of us. It's about, what, $20 for a vehicle with 4. And so it just made so much sense because you would not believe the scenery. This is something you do not want to miss out on. Now, we had a 4x4 Jeep. You don't need to have a 4x4. Even though it's not, none of the roads are paved, most of it's dirt, some gravel, but you can get by with a van, or we even saw a few brave people with cars. They were probably rental cars. But it is possible. You can get through there when the weather's good. But if you have a 4x4, it's even better. But the scenery is going to absolutely blow your mind. After an amazing adventure in Monument Valley, we then headed a little bit north to a place called Goosenecks State Park. Now this is definitely a place you should visit. The scenery again is epic. You drive through a very remote ranchland area and you come to a dead end in the road. In fact, you wouldn't want to go any further because at the end of that road is a huge canyon, 1,000-foot drop to the San Juan River. Now this river over the many years has carved this huge canyon, and it meanders through the valley in what they call the Goosenecks, and you'll see why when you get to see the video or when you visit in person. It's one of the most amazing meanders of a river that are accessible in North America. And you get to stand right at the edge of the cliff and even climb down. There's no official hiking trails there, but there are some trails that people have made that get you even closer to the river. So you can camp there. It's very cheap. It's like $10 a night. It's very remote and quiet and just a wonderful place. That's the place we're definitely going to go back. Goosenecks State Park. After an amazing visit to Goosenecks State Park, we then headed to the nearby town or small village of a place called Mexican Hat. And you'll see why it was named. It was named after a balanced rock that actually looks like a sombrero right on top of a pole. This tiny little village, which this time of year in the winter is quite secluded, quite empty, there's almost nobody there. I'm sure it's quite busy in the summer when there's a lot more tourists, but this time of year it was almost empty. It's a tiny little village right built along the San Juan River. And there's a little restaurant there and a gift shop and so on, which we stopped in to get some delicious food. Now we were looking for something food from the area, and the Navajo Indians are from that area, and so we got some Navajo food. Me and Mom had a Navajo taco. You guys had burgers and all of their food. What makes it local to the natives there is their traditional flatbread, which is a fry bread, and it's very fluffy and delicious, and so their tacos were made with that, their burgers and so on. And it was just a very enjoyable time. It was nice to meet the local people. Their service was amazing, just a wonderful experience. So make sure you stop in at the inn on the river, just by the bridge crossing the San Juan. It'll be a great experience for you and your family.
Same thing. It's the same thing. Same thing, and then there's RCMP guy comes in, he's like, that's the third time this month, I'm gonna have to write you up for contraband. He's like, can you just give me a warning? And he reads the note, it's like 20 hours of community curling. It's like my whole weekend.
After that whole experience in Utah, we had to head south again to Arizona because I had to be near an airport in order to fly to Orlando for a conference where I'm speaking for a couple of days. But on the way back south, we drive through back into Monument Valley. And if you've ever seen Forrest Gump, where he's running up the road and then he finally stops and says,
I'm pretty tired. Think I'll go home now.
That very spot is where we pulled over and got some fun pictures right in front of that view and some video.
Run, Forrest, run!
Thank you for watching this week's episode. I hope you really enjoyed our adventure in Utah, and I hope you get a chance to have your own epic family road trip up in this neck of the woods someday with your family. Stay tuned for next week. As always, there's going to be exciting adventures ahead. And in the meantime,
We'll see you down the road.